time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth and Will Pelagic. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Regardless if it's a scrimmage, practice, preseason, regular season game, whatever it is, you get in that end zone, it's hard to do. So it's a good feeling.
Yeah, how about that Deshaun Watson last night? Looked like a pretty cool, calm veteran out there. I know it's just a preseason game and wasn't playing against frontline people, but he looked pretty good for me for the first time out as a rookie in an NFL game. The way he just carried himself, he just looked like a guy who knew what he was doing. He looked like a guy who knew how to run his offense, put his guys in the right position, change some plays when necessary, and he put the ball on the money.
I was satisfied. From everything I saw from him, and I love how right when they got him out there, they put him in the hurry up. And I love that he showed command, even though his passes weren't always on target. It seemed like he was always making the right decision. And the other thing that I love, too, is the fact that it didn't seem like the moment was too big for him, Pro.
Well, the key point is I always look at a quarterback, and I'm looking for body language. Guy throws a bad pass, he hangs his head. Oh, don't want him on my team. He showed a poker face throughout, and that's the way he does. His body language always, hey, next play, next play, next play. And guess what? He can also play for the Houston Astros because he's got to slide down. Boy, I thought he was going to take a direct hit at one point when he was headed to the end zone, and I think it was when they got a first down, and he slid just in time. And the guy went over the top of him. I don't know if you remember that play.
How much did that one touchdown run remind you of the runs that he used to make, not only at Clemson, but also in the ACC championship in that same stadium?
100%. That was not just that. The run that he made where he, I think he converted a third down.
Yes.
That's the one he tried to slide. Yeah.
I mean, was that the one he slid?
Yes.
I saw another run where he ran out of bounds, just like he did against Alabama. You think you've got him pinned back and corralled, and he turns on the speed, just enough speed to get to the sideline, avoid the hit, and move the chains. So if you're the Texans, you got to be thinking, wow, this guy has really got something, charisma, leadership, and talent. And the naysayers out there, I'm just going to be very happy because, he is a product of one of our schools. We've been around him for 3 years, and I feel like we know him better than anybody for the most part. And you got your folks all over the country who offer up their opinion on things that they don't know much about, to be honest with you, but people listen to them and they take it for what it's worth.
They take it at face value. I think.
And anybody who saw Deshaun Watson play at any point at Clemson and maybe even before that in high school knew that he was a special talent. That's why whoever takes over at Clemson this year, Kelly Bryant or Hunter Johnson or Zarek Cooper or Chase Bryce, whoever it is, faces a very, very difficult task of just running that Clemson offense at 50%, maybe that's too low, 75% of the way it ran under Deshaun Watson.
If whoever is the starting quarterback, tell them to have a conversation with Chad Holbrook when you have to follow a legend.
Or better yet, try Ken Hatfield.
But the key point is I always said that, and Corn attest to this. I said, Deshaun Watson is a guy that's blessed, and he's going to go to a place where he's needed, not where he desperately has to be thrown in the breach. And I said, remember before the draft, I said, here's the spot that would be great for him. And I said, the Texans. Statistically last year, the best defense in the AFC.
Yes, absolutely.
Get a rookie quarterback in there who can play the game, and he doesn't have to worry about anything because that stout defense will stop anything. If he has an interception, there was the place for him.
Well,
he got there.
The one thing, the old adage they say, it's not about when you're drafted, it's where you're drafted and who drafts you. I was thinking there, and I was thinking Kansas City. Those are the two teams that had shaky quarterback needs going into the offseason. They both drafted quarterbacks. Of course, Kansas City got Patrick Mahomes. They're still going to start Alex Smith, but they need to think about the future very, very soon. I think the future is now for the Houston Texans with Deshaun Watson.
Okay, we are off and running. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, the Professor Tom Hayes with us tonight as well, and Jar March, Jared Rogers Martin, once again behind the bulletproof glass. 800-956-72 66. What'd you think of Watson last night? You had to be impressed. And then again, let's don't forget about the Panthers. They did get the win. And for them, even though it's preseason, a win is nice. They won without Cam Newton, and they're trying to get their confidence level and their mojo back to where it was a couple of years ago. 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Just came back from over at USC where Lance Thompson met with the media after the Gamecock practice today. Tells us that Shameik Blackshear has not been practicing basically since they put on pads. He's got a concussion. So he has been out. Up at Clemson, Dabo Swinney said today his defensive end, Cleveland Farrell, has been out with a concussion as well. So these things are going to start happening now that they have the full pads on. They're starting to knock heads. You're going to get some people concussed. So those are a couple of guys at the respective schools. We'll hear from Lance Thompson. We'll hear from Dabo Swinney and others from Clemson tonight as well. Also from Deshaun Watson. Got all that covered for you. Mike Morgan returns after a extended vacation. Looking forward to having him with us. Also, George Bryan III live from the PGA Championship. We'll go over the leaderboard for you in detail in just a moment. At the top of the leaderboard right now is Thorbjorn Olesen, a 67, 4 under par. He's got a one-shot lead over 4 others, including Brooks Koepka, Grayson Murray, Gary Woodland, Chris Stroud. They are all in at 3 under 68 on the course. John Rahm is on the 16th at 3 under par. The top local golfer so far from our state, Dustin Johnson, in at 1 under 70. So we'll give you more on that. Actually, on the course,
yeah, Kisner's still at 2 under par.
Kevin
still on the
Kisner.
course through 14.
Kevin Kisner, 2 under. And in the clubhouse, Dustin Johnson is the best of the state guys at 1 under 70. Kisner on the course at -2. So we look forward to bringing more of that to you as well here on Sports Talk. So we open up the phone lines for you as we've got some real football action to talk about from last night. And, of course, there's a bunch more NFL preseason action for you tonight. If you have the NFL Network, you can catch a game. If you, I don't know, anybody else televising anything tonight? ESPN, anybody got anything tonight?
I can't recall.
Besides the NFL Network?
Just to go around hunting.
The Falcons, who are they playing tonight, Jarmark?
Falcons go up against the Dolphins, so they get to check out Jay Cutler, see what he's got left. He thought he was going to be in that producer booth.
Is Cutler up to speed with the playbook yet? I don't think he'll play. Will he?
Probably not. I don't know
he doesn't have his cardiovascular up, he said.
His 68-71 record, I don't know how that earns you $10 million in the league.
How about Matt Ryan? Is he playing tonight?
I doubt it.
Yeah. I've already predicted the Falcons will not they'll finish 8-8 this year. They're going to suffer the post-Super Bowl blow-it blues.
Little hangover?
I mean, absolutely.
It can't happen.
It happened to the Panthers.
Acted last night.
No, but the Falcons have the youngest defense in the NFL. Right. Those guys just want to play. Let's play.
We shall see.
What did you think of Damiere Byrd last night?
Well, he just, when he gets his chance to play, he just delivers. He's done it since he's been with the Panthers.
Explosive.
Well, I mean, he's when he was at South Carolina, he was a 4-3 guy. Right. Very fast, and he was their deep threat in their offense. And with the Panthers, he can help them in the return game. He can help them in the receiving game. You kind of feel like he's a guy that's earned his spot. A little disappointing that Boulware didn't get more playing time last night. Yeah,
but the thing is, I think Ted Ginn Jr. I think is gone.
Yeah, he is. So he could be that guy.
Byrd is the guy. As long as he shows he can take a hit. He was the type of guy that when you hit him, he was out for a few plays because whether he wants to tell you or not, I think he first was a track guy before he was a football player.
I can't remember if this made air last night, and I think you might have mentioned it. We were remarking about how much weight Kelvin Benjamin has lost.
Yes,
it's
you talked about it after he made that touchdown catch.
He looked like a brand new man.
I guess Christian McCaffrey had a nice debut last night too.
Did.
And a lot of things to like there.
You didn't see too much out of him, which I think you want to save some of those blows for the regular season as well.
He looked smaller in a Panther uniform, though. He looked a lot bigger when he was at Stanford.
Because he's bigger than all the people he played college ball with.
Yeah, maybe who he's standing next to in the NFL's got something to do with that. Yes. All right, 800-956-7266 is the number. Take some phone calls here from Lance Thompson coming up.
position, easy to notice. Probably as good as are getting better. I just see a lot. I could just pick. I'm pleased with our corners. If I could just pick a group to me right now that I think's just probably as good as any player we got on the team. I mean, he is a really good footballer, getting better. Dorian O'Daniel's a guy to me right now, better. Dorian O'Daniel. But he didn't really work on now he does. We got some young receivers. TJ Chase, he looks right now like I hoped he would have looked last summer when he got against just continues to show up. Well, the tight ends today, as a group, this is the best day we.
Back with you on Sports Talk, Thursday night edition from downtown Columbia. Good to have you with us. 800-956-7266. What's so funny?
No, he was running in here like talking a runaway freight train.
800-956-7266.
I didn't want to miss the opening part of the segment. Guys.
The email talkback at sportstalksc.com, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Couple of notes to pass along to you. Then we'll hear from Lance Thompson, also get some of your phone calls as you roll them into us here this afternoon on Sports Talk. We talked about the concussed players at USC and Clemson. A little bit more from Clemson. We'll hear from the Tigers a little bit later on. They work for 2.5 hours today. They will practice again tomorrow and then scrimmage on Saturday. USC will also scrimmage on Saturday. Closed to the public up at Clemson, but former players will be in attendance for Saturday's scrimmage. And we'll hear a little bit from Dabo Swinney coming up. Amari Rogers has had an Achilles injury. He is close to returning. Could be back tomorrow or Saturday. Logan Rudolph has a shoulder issue. If I'm not mistaken, I think he had a shoulder issue in high school as well that cost him his senior. Was that a shoulder or a knee? Something cost him his senior year. He had an injury cost him his senior year. We talked about Farrell being in the concussion protocol, expected to return soon. Cornell Powell has returned to practice. Ray McLeod continues to work at receiver and corner. And that is the latest from Clemson. No other major items. The only way to get information on USC today was from Lance Thompson. Of course, he shared the information about Shameik Blackshear having a concussion, has not practiced since they put on the pads. Of course, the focus with him was on the defensive line, and basically he feels like his front three guys are pretty good, that they are still lacking in terms of numbers and quality depth across the defensive line. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just listen to Lance here very quickly. He'll lay it out for you. Lance Thompson talking about what's been happening on the defensive front. We all know the defensive front is an area where South Carolina needs great improvement, especially in terms of being able to help create a pass rush. And so Lance Thompson gives us the latest on the progress there on the D front for the Gamecocks.
We got the three guys up front that are seniors, Taylor, Dante, and Uric. And been pleased with Kobe Smith. Kobe's made some really good progress. Kier, having played a little bit last year. But other than that, everybody's a first or second year player. So it's a unique position. And, they're going to have to come on.
A lot of the players the other day were talking up Stallworth and saying he was really impressed.
Oh, Taylor, without doubt, is our one guy that's a special guy, SEC, top level player, and he needs to play really well for him. He needs to play well for us and play a lot for us.
What has he improved on?
He just gotten his, last year he had the pec, he had the shoulder. This year I think he's more healthy, and he's a smart guy. He's a strong fellow. Got good feet, plays with good pad level, plays square to the line of scrimmage, and he's just an all-around pretty solid guy.
In terms of the pass rush, Lance, do you want it to come from your four guys up front, or will it have to come from some of the linebackers too?
Well, defensively, schematically, there's a couple ways you can do it, like you said. But I think with what we're adding with Bryson and DJ Warnham coming back, Mike's done a great job with both of those guys. That they're more athletic, and then maybe on third down we need to get to a point where we put some bigger guys in the game, and some of that's dictated by the style of offense with the pace stuff, but we definitely need to get speed on the field on third down and get off the field.
Who are the guys who have popped pass rush-wise besides Dennis and Bryson this fall that you've maybe seen a day or two?
Taylor and Dante, pretty much, are the other two guys that we've worked. We're trying to bring Kier along inside, but there's continuing to work on it. D-line's a developmental position. I remember in the good old days, if you had a D-lineman that played 2 years in a 5-year career and were successful as a player, you're happy. But we don't have that luxury. So,
what are you seeing from Kinlaw?
He's just a big guy, big body, hard to move when he plays low. We need to get him in shape. He's learning the game. He's really young in ball, but he's got a really good attitude about it. Obviously conditioning's a part of it, but we're going to bring him run slow. We don't have any expectations for him. We're not going to put him in a pressure situation. We're really patient with him, work him hard, and let him come along at his pace.
Do you think he could be a guy that will produce for you this year, or is it?
What's that now? Sorry.
Do you think Javon will be a guy that can produce this year, or will it be further down the road?
Well, when you say production, I'm saying we just got a guy that'll play a 3 technique and not get bounced out on a power play. I'd be happy. But I can tell you one thing: we're not going to play a 260-pound freshman in there.
I mean, the thing that I would look at. Defensive line, but there's seniors that lack experience. And I think that's the one thing where if you look at South Carolina, they don't necessarily have the luxury to be able to blitz those linebackers. When you're talking about Sky Moore and Bryson Allen Williams, those guys are so valuable in coverage and getting to the football. You need to be able to create pressure if this defense is going to have any modicum of success this year, especially because of the fact that you also are dealing with depth issues at the cornerback position and the free safety position because of the fact that you had guys who graduated. And I think there's just too much that you need to depend on with that defensive line that you need because of all these new faces that Will Muschamp is plugging into that defense.
I think the key point of South Carolina, though, they're young defensive ends, and they kind of love Wanham right now.
Yes.
Because they got to get penetration in the middle. That's why I think, the tackles have to be paramount here in just caving in the middle. And the factor about that pass rush is not so much getting the quarterback, is the fact that what happened last year is you want to get the quarterback off his mark. it seemed that every time the primary receiver was open, the quarterback had time to throw it. If you can make him move off that spot, look for the secondary or tertiary receiver, now you got a chance to sack him.
Well,
but they never did that.
What they could not do last year up front, with the exception of Darius English, who was a big surprise to everybody with his 8.5 sacks, they just could not disengage themselves from the blocker. It was a lot of dancing up on the line of scrimmage, not a whole lot of, I don't know, lack of strength, lack of size. Their defensive linemen would just get caught up with the offensive linemen and couldn't get them off. And thus it did not lead to a lot of penetration up in the middle of the defensive line. So he is hoping that Jones, he talked about in great detail later on. He mentioned Taylor Stallworth. Two big guys, and maybe they will play better this year, and that would help. And then you got Javon Kinlaw, who a lot is expected of because he's a junior college All-American who had a great year last year down in Mississippi. And coming out of high school, the knock against him was the motor didn't always run at 100%. And so that's part of the deal with him. You got to get him in shape. He probably has to lose some weight, and you got to get him playing 100% every snap.
Yeah, the one thing that Lance said that stood out to me is, when he said when he plays low. And I think that could be a product of the fact that he's still getting used to the level of competition that he's seeing here in practice. I think that, every time you see that, you feel worried because of the fact that at the junior college level, a lot of these guys will, throw these guys around like rag dolls. And I think that you'll see too much of the not laziness, but just it almost comes too easy to a guy like that. And I think he needs a little bit more fine-tuning technique-wise, especially with also the conditioning that he needs as well.
I've always had the feeling that when guys talk about a guy going 100%, feeling that there's no such thing. Guys are big linemen in the middle, they're going to take a play off. Even though they don't think they're taking the play off, it's something about carrying all that girth and go and say, look, I'm going to take a breathe on this play, but then I'm going to attack on this play. Even you could see Reggie White sometime take a play off. Then the next play, he's blasted by somebody because he needed to exhale on the previous
There's
play.
some certain plays where you would swim, or other plays you would, just try to create a pile in the middle.
All right, 800-956-7266. Let's update the leaderboard for the PGA Championship. We'll go live to Charlotte at the top of the hour with George Bryan III. But the golfer who took the lead this morning and has held it all day long, Thorbjorn, 4 under 67 for him.
Who?
Thorbjorn Olesen.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's Danish. He's Danish.
Grayson Murray, Gary Woodland, Brooks Koepka, Chris Stroud, all in at 68, 3 under. DA points, Kevin Kisner on the course at 3 under. Tony Finau, Jim Herman, who's a club pro, Patrick Reed, Paul Casey, and Bud Collett all in at 2 under. John Rahm, Ricky Fowler on the course at 2 under. Back in a moment. Welcome back to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, Thursday night from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut here, along with Will Pelagic and the Professor Tom Hayes. Jared Rogers Martin taking your calls, turning the dials, and otherwise just being a pain. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Wanted to mention a couple of other things from the PGA, and then Mike Morgan is going to join us. This will be a good lead-in for Mike, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Locally, Kevin Kisner now 3 under through 15.
Nice.
So he continues to play well in round one. Dustin Johnson, a 1 under 70. Matt Kuchar, not local, but we follow, even par through 16. Jordan Spieth plus 172. Rory McIlroy is 1 over through 16. Aiken Scott Brown, 2 over 73. Columbia's Wesley Bryan, 3 over 74. Sergio Garcia, 75. Lucas Glover, a 75. Russell Henley, a 75. Kyle Stanley, a 76. Bill McGirt, a 77. Bubba Watson, a 77 for him. Bill Haas is on the course at plus 6. Davis Love III, a 7 over 78. Phil Mickelson, struggling. He's on the 18th at 8 over. And Ernie Els shot a 9 over 80. Which brings me to Mike Morgan here on Sports Talk as he comes to us fresh off vacation, which included a stop at Pebble Beach. So I want to know what you shot at Pebble Beach, considering Ernie Els shot 80 today in Charlotte.
Wow. Well, I'd kill for an 80. I can tell you that much. I'm still proud of my score. You know what a mediocre golfer I am. A 49 on the front, a 51 on the back for a cool 100.
Wow. That's a very convenient score, an even 100. So I'm assuming that all penalty strokes are included, and there was nothing funny as part of this round?
There was one mulligan, which I didn't use till about the 7th hole. I didn't hit a single ball in the water. I had one par, no birdies, a bunch of doubles, and that's how you get to 100.
Wow. What'd you think of the course?
It's unbelievable. It's so few things live up to the hype in life and in the sports world. Pebble Beach certainly does. It's exquisite from the first hole on. There are some holes that are just kind of like, you feel like you're in a movie. It doesn't even feel real. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And the whole experience itself, obviously the history of the course. So you feel some of that. But I mean, you could shoot 140 and you're not going to have a bad day playing that course.
What were the conditions when you played?
Perfect weather. We caught fog around hole number 8. Had it for a couple holes. That slowed things up. They put, when you go to the driving range, they put the number 4:30, which stands for 4 hours 30 minutes. That's the pace of play they expect you to be at.
Mm-hmm.
And we were well on our way to that, except everything got backed up once the fog hit. So by the time we hit the 18th hole, which is a rather challenging par 5, we actually played some of it in the dark, and we were a foursome having to take our cell phones out and put the flashlight on to see the ball. I think that actually made me better.
Yeah,
but, that actually helped my game. But again, there's just, it's hard to be the least bit upset about anything when you're out there. It's unbelievable. Far too good of a course for the game that I possess. I don't deserve it necessarily, but I certainly wasn't going to turn down the opportunity, and something on the bucket list for sure.
Absolutely. All right, let's turn our attention to the football season coming up. I know you are preparing for that. And have you gotten your games yet? Do you know what you're doing here to open up the season?
I don't know exactly where I am. I just know what weekends I'm on, and I've got a few off, but mostly SEC games, mostly SEC venues. So we'll kind of figure that out. So it's, for me, it's the preparation already starts in the summer, and it's pretty status quo for all of us to kind of keep up with the SEC anyway, just as fans of it. So, living here in Atlanta, you hear a lot of Georgia talk, obviously. I still hear a lot of South Carolina talk from a lot of people I still know back there. And then everybody hears about Alabama ad nauseum. So you start with those three, And then I'm curious to see, how Florida will do when they finally have a quarterback. Will Tennessee finally live up to expectations and save the job of Butch Jones, who I know some people think he shouldn't be on the hot seat. I think he's very much on the hot seat. I think there's a lot of interesting stories, but I'll just say this. The one overriding theme that sticks out to me is compared to last year. I thought last year was the worst top-to-bottom quarterbacking play that the SEC has had in a generation. I mean, it wasn't so much that there were a bunch of guys that had no talent, but the few that did were very inexperienced and were raw. And then you had two Purdue transfer quarterbacks that weren't good enough to start at Purdue that were starting in the SEC for Florida and LSU. I didn't think Joshua Dobbs lived up to how good he could have and should have been. LSU had quarterbacking issues. I mean, there's so many schools that just had quarterbacking issues, whereas this year, I think that should be the strength of the league. So I'm looking forward to better quarterback play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was about to ask you about that because last year was kind of strange in that even though all the struggles at quarterback, it seemed that a lot of the SEC defenses last year were sieves. They would give up just chunks of yardage in games where you saw mediocre quarterbacking. Are you looking to see the defenses maybe improve, or have all the rules kind of taken the stoutness out of the defenses?
Well, I think the hardest coaching job in football at any level is to be a defensive coordinator in college football. It's not just the rules. It's, guys that can just run around all over the place in college football cause nightmares. More often than not in pro football, those guys are handled. It's just a different game. So we've seen this where guys that even play, as I like to call it, and I don't mean any offense by this when I say it, but it's a dumbed down playbook. It's when you actually watch what they do, for the most part, it's a dumbed down playbook, and still defenses can't stop it, even if they have great athletes. Of course, Alabama is the exception of that, and look at how many points Clemson scored on them the last 2 years. So you're just such at a disadvantage in college football. Playing defense and coaching defense. So it's tough. I mean, I still think the SEC's calling card is defensive line. The defensive line talent and depth in this league is better than any other league in the country. But that doesn't excuse the fact that there were a lot of other positions that were not that great last year in the league. And I mentioned quarterback and pro. You talked about the defenses. I don't think it was a particularly strong year for a lot of teams in their linebacking cores. I thought there was room for improvement in some secondaries out there. I mean, we're seeing the usual suspects. We know Alabama's going to be great on defense every year. We know LSU's going to be not far behind. But you keep looking toward that Eastern Division and you say, okay, we need some other defenses to step it up now. And, of course, we definitely have to see just some better play out of the East as a whole. It's real hard for me as a guy who remembers following this league when it was the East that was the dominant division and the West took a back seat. And now people are calling it, the JV versus the varsity whenever these two divisional champions meet in Atlanta. When every time out, it's the East losing to the West, and very often in blowout fashion. That's got to be changed if we're going to talk about the SEC as the best league overall. It can't just be Alabama and the other 13 teams.
Mike, we got about a minute. What would be a reasonable expectation for Jake Bentley's full year as a starter?
Well, a lot of that, of course, will depend on the O-line, but I like the weapons he has around him. I mean, they have the triplets right now in Columbia. You've got a go-to running back, a go-to receiver, and I think he has a chance to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So I think realistically, he's a guy that could be an all-conference performer in this league. I don't think that's too far-fetched.
Mike, always good hearing from you. Looking forward to being with you throughout the football season here on Thursday nights. Morgan on the move, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys.
Take care. Mike Morgan with us here on Sports Talk. When we come back, we've got Clemson's co-offensive coordinator from today, Jeff Scott, after the Tigers practice, and some recruiting coming your way as well. Phone number 800-956-7266 if you want to join in. We'll be right back.
decision making. Make the right decisions. Be a consistent decision. Make the right decisions. Be a right decision. Make the right decisions. Make the right decisions. Be a consistent for the season, and we understand that as coaches. Are you concerned? Make the right decisions. Be a consistent.
Yeah, let's see how Mitchell Trubisky does tonight for Chicago, the North Carolina Tar Heel quarterback who was picked ahead of Deshaun Watson, one of two quarterbacks picked ahead of Deshaun Watson.
It's because they were desperate. That's why, Phil.
Well, let's just see how well he handles himself. If he is as in control of his team as Watson appeared to be in control of his team last night.
He's not looking over. He's not looking over at DeAndre Hopkins. I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, that's true. He doesn't have. He doesn't have the
and
overall weapons.
is gone. He's in
Houston
Philly
does.
now.
That's right. Whatever it is, listen. You still have to make the best of it. You know, you play with the hand that's dealt you. 15 of 25 for Watson, 179 yards. Longest was 34, a rating of 81.9. You know, Savage didn't do poorly. He was 9 of 11 for 69 yards.
The difference between Deshaun Watson's situation and Mitchell Trubisky's, Deshaun Watson's living in a penthouse apartment. Mitchell Trubisky's got a shack outside of Azerbaijan.
Which I hate because I like John Fox. You know, I hate to see John Fox get fired again. He's a good.
Well,
he's a good coach.
You're coached to be fine.
But then again, he is in the Packers division, so I have to wish him the best in his next life.
Look at you going
Trubisky
homer
has
on
already
us.
made one mistake, but he was set up.
You will learn that there's nothing bigger to me than the Packers. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was saying Trubisky has already
and right now the
Trubisky
Yankees
has already made one dire mistake.
That is,
and he was set up. He went on a Chicago radio station. They knew the kid was from Ohio, and they asked him, "Who would you take, LeBron or Michael Jordan?"
Oh.
And he immediately said, "Hey, I'm an Ohio kid, LeBron."
Oh.
They don't hear that first part. All they hear is LeBron.
Hey, the only thing that they're mad about him is if he puts ketchup on a hot dog. That's the one thing that they care about in Chicago.
Is putting ketchup on a hot dog?
Yeah, they do not do that. They do not put ketchup on a hot dog. They call that sacrilegious.
And why is that?
I don't know. It's just ask anybody you know from the city of Chicago.
That's not even just a Chicago thing. It started there. That's the homeland. You've never heard of this, Corn?
I load my hot dogs with ketchup.
They're
I've never
not
heard of such a thing.
They're team mustard.
Children.
No, mustard.
I've never heard. I
They're
mean, I
all
mixed.
team
I put
brown
ketchup
mustard.
and mustard on my hot dogs.
Have you ever been to Chicago?
I was there for 4 days this summer.
So they put the ketchup, they put the mustard, they put the sport peppers, they put onions, they put celery salt, and then they plop it on there with a big pickle as well.
Yeah, I didn't have that when I was there, but it sounds good.
It's like a salad.
I had pizza.
And a nitroglycerin pill.
All right, recruiting in a moment, but Clemson worked out again today. Tigers heading towards their first big scrimmage on Saturday. Jeff Scott, the co-offensive coordinator, receivers coach, came over to the media to join in on the conversation after practice. And, the Clemson guys, what's on their mind after last night, Deshaun Watson. And, of course, it's still fresh with the Tiger coaching staff that they just had Deshaun Watson, and now their little baby boy has moved on to the NFL and the Panthers. So Jeff Scott comments on Watson's first pro game, and then he gets into his own situation with the Clemson offense.
Yeah, it was great. And, to be in a brand new facility and we're all out there and the whole team's in the paw and outside watching those guys. And as soon as Deshaun threw that first pass, you could hear it. The whole team was cheering for him and talking and all that. So that was special. And, I think as a coach, it's very rewarding. I can remember when Deshaun was a freshman and sophomore in high school. And I can remember him going out, in his first starts in high school and just, this stage not being too big for him, just being very fluid and being able to execute. I can remember him as a true freshman at Georgia coming off the bench in the very first drive, going and leading us to a touchdown. And so it was really neat to see that final phase as his debut on an NFL field. And that was the biggest thing that I think I took away from it is he looked very natural. It didn't look like the moment was too big for him, and he's going to only get better. So that was very encouraging, and all the players and coaches really enjoyed watching those guys last night.
What did you want to see in the scrimmage on Saturday for the offense?
Yeah, just seeing how we all put it together. We've had our moments, done some really good things. Kelly Bryant has had a really, really good fall camp up to this point. The best week stretch that he's had in his entire career. And so I want to see him carry that over to a scrimmage situation. I want to see the entire offense carry over the execution that we've had. It's been really, really good at times. And I want to see us carry that over where all the coaches are off the field. Can we execute? Can we get the signals? Can we get the tempo going? Can we go down on a long drive and score? And then, for that next group, those younger guys that get opportunities, are they ready for that moment? Can they go out there in that setting and make plays?
My only thing is I just don't want to see Kelly Bryant win this job by default. I want to see him earn the job. And I think that's the one thing that I think for a lot of Clemson fans, you want to see the man who is out there day one. You want to make sure that he's earned it, not just because of the fact that Kelly Bryant's there, just because he's the only guy who's left over from last year.
I think he has earned it to this point. I mean, he started out as number one, but there was no lock. There was no guarantee.
Right.
And he's, according to the coaches who have talked about it, he's expanded his advantage over the guys. So, and it's all about, I think he is protecting the football better right now. The younger guys, and it's only natural that they're going to have their problems with turnovers.
Right.
But apparently he's much better at protecting the football and finding the right receiver in the right play and putting the ball where it's supposed to be. I need to make a couple of corrections.
Kornblut's corrections?
Yeah, I know this is rare. Are you recording this for historical purposes? Because this is – I have to correct myself. Actually, a listener corrected me last night via email. I said Wayne Gallman. I think I referred to him. I think I've done it a couple of times as Clemson's all-time leading rusher. He is not. He is Clemson's single-season leading rusher, but not the all-time. Raymond Priester still has that. For some reason, I thought he called him. I think he's like 5th all-time at Clemson. So did not accomplish that, but he did set the single-season rushing record. The other thing I've said a couple of times in talking about Clemson is if they went to a third straight playoff, that they'd be the first, but that's not correct because Alabama has been to 3.
Yeah.
All 3 playoffs, Alabama has been in it. So just wanted to, when we make a mistake here, we like to clean it up.
I wonder how Clemson's offense did today. Did they talk to Jeff Scott after practice?
This was post-practice today.
Are you referring to his voice?
Because when I hear a coach voice his hoarse, they didn't have a good day at practice. They were yelling at some people.
All right, let me get recruiting in here before we hit the top of the hour break, if you guys don't mind. Defensive back C.J. Smith of West Palm Beach, Florida, a former Florida commitment, is going to visit South Carolina. That'll be his second official visit. Louisville's up first on the 15th of September. USC on the 23rd. Oklahoma, October 7th. Ole Miss, October 21st. Oklahoma is his favorite, but he's been talking to USC's Travaris Robinson, so he is very interested in checking out the Gamecocks to see what that looks like. Tight end Mustafa Muhammad of Missouri City, Texas, who we talked about last night,
My guy.
named his final 5 schools later last night. Clemson, LSU, Texas, Michigan, UCLA. He'll take his official visits to those, and Clemson is scheduled for November 11th. Basketball, 6'7", Jimmy Nichols Jr. of Conway was at USC for much of the day yesterday, 11:30 to 5 with his parents, toured the facilities. The academic side met with Frank Martin and the coaches. South Carolina is very interested. Martin has not yet offered, but Nichols is confident that that will come when he makes his official visit. He's just said that Martin likes to take it slowly with people when he first starts to recruit them. But South Carolina right now is his favorite. Miami, Rice, Rutgers, Coastal, Nebraska, Georgetown, VCU, Pittsburgh, Georgia, and Providence are other offers. His top 5, USC, Providence, Miami, and Georgia. I'm sorry, that would be his top 4. And USC is number 1. He'll also take officials to Providence, Georgia, and Miami. He averaged 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game last season. Most likely will sign in November. So there you go with recruiting for now. Remember, check out our recruiting regularly on your favorite website, SportsTalkSC.com. Most followed, most talked about. And on Twitter at SportsTalkSC, use the hashtag STRecruiting. Hashtag STRecruiting. Or as I used to call it, #STRecruiting. Then I got hip and called it hashtag STRecruiting. It take you right to our stories.
You hip? I can't imagine.
We'll be back top of the hour. Are you ready? All right, coming down in 3, 2, 1. Defensive back C.J. Smith of West Palm Beach, Florida, is a former Florida commitment. He will visit Louisville September 15th and USC September 23rd. He's also going to visit Oklahoma and Ole Miss in October. Currently favors Oklahoma. Tight end Mustafa Muhammad, Missouri City, Texas, named his top 5 of Clemson, LSU, Texas, Michigan, UCLA. He'll visit Clemson November 11th. In basketball, 6'7", Jimmy Nichols Jr. of Conway made an unofficial visit to USC earlier this week. The Gamecocks have not yet offered, but he is confident that they will. He has the Gamecocks #1 on his list right now, ahead of Providence, Miami, and Georgia. Phil Kornbluth, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports.
See, we have another promo to cut.
Sports.
time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth and Will Pelagic. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
That dude's got a good voice. Tell you what, whoever that is out at Learfield in Missouri, hey, he can really spin the hits.
The guy who has the really good voice is Paul Turner, the guy who does a lot of their network stuff. The guy who comes out, he's like, the following is a presentation of Learfield Sports.
Probably
all right.
Smokes a pipe.
Yeah, maybe.
Marlboro Reds.
I did see a
Cowboy Killers.
I read a story. I don't think he's doing it anymore, but the guy who used to do the promos and the stages for the staging for segments for ESPN Sports Center is a guy who's not a sports guy at all.
No.
He's just a dude with a voice. I think he lives in Rhode Island or something. He's a big Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
And somehow ESPN found him or he found them, and he made a living out of
Sports Center.
Yeah, cutting those little segments. Yeah.
That's a land house living for a lot of those voiceover guys.
Is a what?
It's a land house living for all those voiceover guys.
Which means
it's just huge
to us.
It's huge
Land house.
Land. It's huge.
Huge.
It's huge.
Okay. Got to understand the
the
lingo here.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Huge.
Like Trump would say, huge.
Speaking of huge, let's go to George Bryan III, GB3, some birdies and bogeys. Maybe more bogeys than birdies in the first day of the PGA Championship. So some scores are pretty good as the first round is winding down. 4 under, 3 under. Not too bad at a very, very difficult course. And, oh, yes, of course, we congratulated him last night on the engagement of his daughter to whom? Who's the new member of the family?
William Rainey. Good evening. William Rainey is my new son-in-law, and hey, it's a privilege and a pleasure. And right as I made that announcement, I mean, that's the truth. That's exactly what happened.
That's pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing. Yeah. So you on our show, you have ticked off the people of Ireland at one point in time, and announced an engagement of your daughter on the show. That's pretty cool.
Hey, I was just telling Richard. William's daddy, I said, man, this one's the most fun for me because the safety's off. The parameters are wide. Your imagination's just right. And by the way, you still have to earn that ticket. You got to earn your ticket to Quail, and I'll give you just a hint.
Okay.
Your imagination. So where we're taking it tonight?
Well, let's just talk about your day and things that you saw around the course as you were following Wesley and others. What kind of things did you see and experience?
First of all, this is probably the number one most friendly spectator venue that I have seen or even been on. And it's much to my surprise. It's spectator friendly. There's plenty of shade. There's very few courses I've been on that has a better variety of hardwoods and vegetation, native. The grass is beautiful, and you can see golf.
Mm-hmm.
The best part is the spectators can see golf, and obviously the hospitality up here. Nothing could be finer than to finish that major in Carolina.
Yeah.
So, hey, the golf course, look at the scores, though. Well, seldom do you see a major championship where 4 under is leading after one round. So many are in contention. The right players, great players are playing in good shape. So still after and you don't get conditions for scoring any easier than this, but the golf course held its own.
Kevin Kisner has got a chance to grab a share of the lead. He's on the 18th.
He birdied the 18th.
Oh, how about that? Kevin Kisner has got a share of the lead.
Birdied 3 out of his last 5 holes too.
Didn't he have a share of a major lead earlier? Did he have a share at the Masters or something? What am I thinking about him?
Well, I'll tell you what, he's played so good all year, and I can't remember the exact event. But I've watched him. By the way, he's as nice a guy, as friendly as he is a great player too. But this sets up great for him, position golf. But you got to hit it solid, and you got a ball strike here, and he does it. So, and he also he's not afraid to win. Wouldn't that be cool to have he practices at Palmetto Club.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be cool to have him to win the last major? That'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. He's got 2 career wins, one this year, the Dean and the DeLuca, tied for second at the Palmer and tied for second in New Orleans. And for some reason, I'm thinking that he was way up in the early rounds of a major. I'll have to go back and dig that up. But it's good to see a local. What about Wesley's day? I know that finished up at 74. And what did he think of his round?
It got great at the end on the hardest part of the golf course. He looked good in the start. He got a little shaky mid-round, but he finished really strong, and that's what I love to see. And I believe based on the greens and the way he's striking those irons, I believe he definitely can be there at the end. He's got a little work to do though at 3 over, but still, if you're anywhere in the ballpark going into the weekend, this kind of golf course, anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Saw a lot of over par golf on the back 9 of this course, George. What do you think dictates the particular nature of that?
There are a couple of things: hitting your ball solid and in position around the greens. If you can easily get out of position and have really no chance to score. In fact, you can get defensive pretty quick. So tee shots, I love the fact that you've got room off the tee. You can play golf if you miss a fairway. So a lot of places, in a lot of the majors, if you miss a fairway, you're pretty much done. You got to tip out. Then if you miss a green, you've got to basically lay up. But these guys can keep playing golf. Staying in position is absolute critical, and that just means staying basically on the low side of the hole, so you're playing uphill golf.
Take a look at some of the others worth talking about. Bubba got off to a terrible start, 3 straight bogeys, 6 bogeys on his front 9. He had to birdie his last 2 of his last 3 holes just to get it home in 77. Was he just having trouble off the tee today?
Play, but I watched him. We played a practice round with him yesterday. I say we. Yeah. I watched. Hey, I was out there talking with Bill McDonald today about Bubba's game, and he's probably seen him more than I. But it is so much fun to watch. His ball is so different than anybody else on the tour. He plays every kind of ball flight, every shot. And because of his score, I wouldn't count him out. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing he did mention to me is this is number 6 in a row for him, 6 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. Even though the golf course is perfect, when a little bit tired, he's going to have to do something different tomorrow. But it wouldn't surprise me. He can go low here. He can.
And Mickelson, this is unbelievable. I mean, did not have a birdie today. 79 for him. And it was bad from the start. So you hate to, gosh, that's just shocking to know that, he's still got his game, but he goes out there today and just doesn't have it.
Well, and any of the majors, if you're off a little bit, all errors are magnified and it's exposed. I tell you, it breaks your heart to see somebody like a Mickelson or a Bubba Watson, who they're not far off. I was just by Bubba yesterday. Phil hit balls beside Wesley, and you don't have to be much off, and before you know it, you're shooting 77. But I'll tell you right now, I remember Curtis Strange at a Masters one year shot about that high, and he had a chance to win the tournament. You never can tell. I'll tell you, I was looking at Murray, Woodland, Koepka, Stroud. Stroud won. He won last week. So I talked to him on the putting green. He thinks he can again. Chris Stroud, the world doesn't know about Chris Stroud, but Chris Stroud thinks he can win here, I think. So the other guys are set up. They were built for this golf course, the ones I just mentioned. So he now hits it forever, and he looks good too. Patrick Reed obviously has got that kind of game. Talk to him a little bit. I think he's ready.
George, okay, man, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Congratulations once again to the family. Good luck tomorrow with Wesley. We'll talk to you then. Be right back.
make the right decisions, be a consistent decision maker. Sometimes when you're going against it's not like we're spending a week game planning against.
I would have resigned, quit, retired, whatever you want to call it.
Thanks again to GB3. I wonder if he realizes how much it costs to put on a wedding these days. Because he's had boys get married. I guess this is his only daughter that's getting married. You know, that's going to cut into the bank account quite severely. I know from experience. Coming up, we're going to hear from Steve Spurrier, who had some interesting comments just the other day. I think he was down in Louisiana talking to a television station there. We've got the audio from that for you coming up. On Monday night here on Sports Talk at 6:15, Will Muschamp will join us live on Sports Talk. That'll be a great time to have him because it will be following the Gamecocks' first scrimmage of fall camp, and they do not have a practice on Sunday. They will have a practice on Monday afternoon. So we'll get some good stuff from him about the scrimmage here on Monday night.
Looking forward to talking with him for the first time.
1 week before the eclipse.
Is the eclipse Monday?
1 week
the
before.
21st.
Week from
Yeah,
that's a
week
week.
from- week
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Monday.
We still have another week.
That's what I said.
Don't
a
rush
week-
it.
I said a week before the
Oh,
eclipse.
a week. Yes. yes.
I hope to heck that it rains and torrentially downpours on Eclipse Day.
Why would you wish that?
Because I just think I'm tired of all the talk about the eclipse. I'm anti-eclipse.
Anti-eclipse.
I am biased against the eclipse.
Well, I tell you what.
All right.
The
It only lasts for 2 minutes and 40
I think
seconds.
what is it? The South Carolina Chamber of Commerce is upstairs in that big tall building there.
Mhm.
They want to see you after this.
Well, now the whole the
They
2
don't
minutes
need,
and 40
they don't
seconds.
need any help. All the hotels in Columbia are booked. They
The
don't
2
need any
minutes
help.
and 40 seconds. That's the full eclipse, right? That's the
Totality.
length of time of
It's
the
the totality.
full
Yeah.
eclipse.
The
Right.
totality was
Not the amount of time from when you first start to see
no. That's a couple hours. That's
the
a couple hours.
eclipse start, yeah.
The 2 minute portion is the
Yeah.
totality.
totality. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Let's get back to sports for Toe. Thank you, Jarmar. Back to Dabo Sweeney. Back to Clemson. Tigers practice today. Dabo Sweeney came out and talked to the media. Did not talk with the media yesterday. Talked with the media today. And the quarterback situation still at the forefront of things, even though it's kind of settled down with Kelly Bryant being the guy, maybe separating himself from the pack just a little bit. He talked today, Dabo did, about what he's looking for in that guy who's going to be the guy to replace Deshaun Watson.
Make the right decisions. Be a consistent decision maker. Sometimes when you're going against each, it's not like we're spending a week game planning against an opponent. You know, sometimes when you've got 7 or 8 days of installation and they've got 7 or 8 days of installation, it's not always going to match. We're trying to get good for Clemson, and sometimes it just don't match up very good. That's okay. It's okay. But did you make the right decision? You know, that's really kind of what I'm evaluating, and then make the plays that are there. The plays that are there, let's make those. You can't go catch it for them, but you know, are we making the right decisions in the running game with the protections? Are our eyes on the right things? Making the right decisions in the passing game? Do we make plays with our feet? Those are all things we're looking for, but just a consistent performer. That's because they all can do the job. They all can go and play, but consistently, who's making the fewest mistakes? Those mistakes will get you beat, and we've got to try to minimize those if we can. So that's really what we're looking for. And again, there's going to be some bad plays just because same thing for the defense. There's going to be some bad plays against them because they're working on something and it doesn't quite match up. Maybe they wouldn't do it if they were just game planning, but we got to get ready for the season, and we understand that as coaches.
All right, Dabo Sweeney talking about the quarterbacks after today's practice. A big scrimmage coming up for the Tigers on Saturday, and that will certainly go a long way towards determining who will be the top 2 quarterbacks. If Kelly is the guy right now, then they got to figure out who's going to be number 2. Is it going to be Hunter Johnson or Zarek Cooper or Chase Bryce?
There's a lot of good talk about Bryce. They're very, very high on him and his IQ, at least this level of people who at least are vying for a backup role.
Yeah. He's a guy that, did not get into school until the summer. So he missed all of he didn't enroll in January.
Right.
Like
He
a lot of
wasn't an
quarterbacks
early
do.
enrollee, yeah.
Right. So he's had to pick up a hurry, and apparently he's picked it all up pretty quickly. So
According to them, yes.
they do feel good about him. While we're talking about head coaches, Steve Spurrier was in Louisiana. I think it was yesterday. Must have been making some kind of an appearance, but he talked with a television station down there, and it was in Shreveport. Okay, he was back in Shreveport, and I guess the question came up about the way things ended for him at South Carolina, the way that he left his team mid-season, and so here is Steve Spurrier responding to the question about why did things end the way they did for you at South Carolina?
If I'd been smart, I would have resigned, quit, retired, whatever you want to call it, about 2 weeks after we beat Miami. In fact, I'd already talked to our AD before the game. I said, I think I'm finished. It was a tough year, that 2014 season. We lost 3 games with a 2-touchdown lead middle of the fourth quarter. And I was just, the losses hurt more the longer you coach. I got to say that the wins are not as much fun and the losses hurt more. So I should have stepped aside, but yeah, we thought we had a good team coming back and this, that, and the others.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I made a mistake coming back, but we did enjoy beating Miami. Florida and Miami have a little bit of a rivalry.
Okay, we're having a little bit of a computer issue there, but you caught some of what Spurrier had to say. Stuff he's before, but he's bringing it back up in this interview. And yeah, when you look back on it, he should have at South Carolina after beating Miami in the Independence Bowl. He said there he thought he had a good team coming back in 15. Boy, they grossly overestimated things for that particular team. I guess it was 16 coming back in 16.
No, it was 15.
15. I'm
correct.
sorry. Yeah,
15's
16 was Muschamps' first year. 15, right. 14, 15. Grossly overestimated things there. And, it just turned out to be a disaster. He's right. Had they held on to those leads in 2014 that they blew, in particular Tennessee, here.
They conceivably could have been another 10 wins.
Mississippi. Who else did they blow? They get leads against. Missouri. Missouri came back and beat them.
Tennessee, they had a 2-touchdown lead with about 3 minutes to go.
Yeah. You should have. I mean,
me. You looking at me?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. You missed some great stuff post game. Those weeks that they lost those leads. I mean, Spurrier was beside himself, basically trying to hold it in, especially after Tennessee. I mean, and first of all, he's got a personal thing with Tennessee, being a Tennessee guy, having grown up there, and a long-time rivalry. And South Carolina was in the midst of dominating Tennessee like it never had before, had another win under its belt, and they coughed it up. And the defense was terrible. They just did not make the right calls or whatever the case may be. It was just a complete meltdown, and Spurrier was just having a hard time handling losing those games that he turned over to the defense to try and hold on to the lead.
A&M had a lead and they ended up blowing that, and it's to me, you look at his career and you wonder if he'd be looked at in a more positive light by South Carolina fans if he would have left at the right time.
Well, I mean, walking out on your team, is going to never leave you in a good light. Say what you will, and I kind of am sympathetic to him, and I understand what he was thinking, but, you're a coach, and you're like a general on the field, man. You don't leave your people behind, and he walked out on his team at midseason. His rationale was, I'm quitting anyway. Let's give him a head start on finding a new coach. Let's give somebody else a chance to try to win with these guys because I can't do it. He had in his mind, he had all the right reasons to do it, but it still doesn't play well.
It didn't take him too long to get on that Florida payroll right after he left, too, either.
Well, that didn't help.
But the interesting thing is,
they
have to thank Spurrier for Will Muschamp being here, because if he didn't upset Muschamp in the last game in 2015,
I don't know. You still think Muschamp would have survived at Florida if he'd beaten South Carolina that game?
I think he probably
would have. I don't know.
It just made it easier.
The drum beats were already starting to grow pretty loud down there.
But that's because that ugly offense.
But I don't think the same coach that was at Florida is the one that's here at South Carolina. I think we're seeing the guy who was at the beginning of Florida.
Well, we're going to see. I mean, we're going to see.
I think it's a different
what, you couldn't. If you're a Gamecock fan, you could not be real happy with what you were hearing from Lance Thompson today about that defensive front.
True.
I mean, he did not sound all that encouraged about what he's seeing out there with his guys at this point, is how I took it. We'll be back. We continue on a Thursday edition of Sports Talk from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes, all with you tonight. Coming up, the voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, will join us, talk about last night's preseason opener for his guys, his take on his team, and, of course, he'll opine a little bit about Deshaun Watson. We were talking about the connections, the state connections. We forgot to mention also on the Texans, you have Carlos Watkins from Clemson. You have DJ Reader from Clemson. On the Panthers, you've got Captain Munderland from USC. So we got a bunch of connections between those.
Jonathan Joseph as well.
Jonathan Joseph on the Texans.
Yes.
As well. So the with the players from the Palmetto State.
Well, that's what I was saying. They probably have arguably two of the greatest players ever to play college football in the state of South Carolina in Clowney and Deshaun Watson.
Oh, no question about that. No question. So Deshaun Watson goes out last night for his first professional game. Now, none of this will count on his career records because preseason stats don't count. Only regular season and postseason stats will count. But let the record show that he completed 15 of 25 for 179 yards and no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a big zero for him.
Correct.
He also rushed 3 times for 24 yards and a touchdown. 15-yard touchdown run, averaged 8 yards per carry. So he had typical of not typical because he's typical for him was around 400 total yards in a Clemson game. But, playing not full-time in an NFL game, he had about 200 yards of total offense in his professional debut. So what did he think about his performance the first time out in a NFL game? Here is Watson talking about that after last night's performance in Charlotte. Of course, why shouldn't he feel good about how he performed?
Today was it was good to get my feet wet, not just me, but all the rookies, and just get out there and just experience my first NFL game. So it was fun.
What did you like, not like about what you did at
my main focus is us, making sure I'm doing the right things as a quarterback, leading the team, good operation, good mic mates, whatever the coach asked me to do, and what we game plan for.
Some of you had things that maybe broke down, and wasn't something there. How cool was you just to think, hey, I'm going to take care of football first and just
that's one of our goals is to take care of the football, especially at this level. You can't turn the ball over, so that's one of the biggest things that we focus on is protect the ball, whoever is handling the ball, runners and passers.
It may be preseason, but how special was it? Get in the end zone in the first half.
It's always good, regardless if it's a scrimmage, practice, preseason, regular season game, whatever it is. If you get in the end zone, it's hard to do. So it's a good feeling. It was awesome. Just to be able to, just to be able to have that support and that fan base, especially when I come back around this area. So I want to just thank all my fans and people that would support me. It's good. It was God working mysterious ways. So my first NFL game was close enough for my family to come see, and everyone came by. Everyone showed up and supported.
All right, Deshaun Watson following last night's loss to the Panthers, but he was not a loser. He was a big winner. I think anybody just watching some of the post-game coverage, the NFL people, when they got a chance to watch him, not so much his performance. I mean, he threw the ball, I thought, well. He hit some receivers with some tight window passes. He missed a couple of guys here and there, but I thought he threw it well. To me, it was just more about how in charge he looked at the line of scrimmage when they went up tempo, no huddle. And it just seemed like he was right at home with whatever they were doing.
Well, he had the one pass, a little pop pass around the middle. You could tell he audibled out of the previous play on that play.
The one thing that I liked from him is that even if he didn't complete the pass, you could see what was going through his mind and you could make it look justified. And I want to at least emphasize the fact that there may be some science behind what Bill O'Brien is doing in putting Tom Savage in, because he knows he's going to get to Tom Savage early on. They wanted to see what Deshaun Watson would do when you open things up and you gave him the larger part of the game and not necessarily give it so much of a high learning curve to have to go against a first-team defense. But what you liked from him and what you saw from him, you have to be encouraged by. And now, does that translate to him starting week 1? I think it's too soon to tell, but he certainly did more that stood out than anybody else on that field.
I do not disagree. I mean, look, Savage didn't do anything in terms of his numbers to hurt himself.
They didn't move the football with him with them on the field. They didn't move
but
it.
I mean, he didn't get a chance. He played 2 series,
Yeah.
and then he was done. And then Watson played the bulk of the rest of the game, so he got more opportunities to do some things offensively. And I'm sure they want to have a competition here in camp, not let one guy just be the guy and not feel like he's being pushed, because you're being pushed, you're going to step your game up. But I just got to believe that Deshaun gives them many more options at quarterback with what they can do, both in terms of his arm and his legs. And I think some of the people who criticized him didn't think he was a good enough passer, but gosh, every time I see him play, he's plenty good as a passer.
Well, the key thing about him, and this is, to me, it's an underrated thing, and that is he throws a very catchable ball. You almost have to try to drop his passes. They're usually tight. He throws with the laces, and you just grab that thing. You don't have to. It's not a Billy Kilmer pass. As they used to say, Billy Kilmer threw the option pass. You have the option to catch either end of it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction. My first on Sports Talk South Carolina. I think that Deshaun is in by week 6. Because the first 5 weeks are tough. They have the Jaguars. They have a short week. They play the Bengals. They're at the Patriots, home Titans, home Chiefs. 3 out of those 5 games are toss-ups for them.
Where do they play the Patriots that first time?
They have to go to Gillette.
Yeah. I think it'll be sooner than that. I really do.
But but here's the thing.
I would be surprised. Why wouldn't you start him against the Jags? I mean, if he's the best guy, the Jags don't.
Well, the reason
what fear would the Jags put into anybody?
The reason I say week 6 is who they get week 6 at home against the Cleveland Browns, and then they have a bye week after that.
That's like
So they basically have 2 bye weeks.
But when he was at Clemson, they brought him along slowly. And who did he start his first game against?
Florida State.
Florida State down there, because Clemson wanted to win that ball game, and he gave them the best opportunity to win that ball game. I think they're going to figure out in Houston who gives them the best chance to win a ball game, starting out number 1. And if it's him, he'll be the guy against the Jags.
And against Florida State, interesting enough is you start him against Florida State because I think Florida State really didn't have enough film on him at that time to figure out they had a tiger by the tail, no pun intended.
All you had to do was see that first throw he had against Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
Where he threaded the needle for a touchdown pass. And you knew this guy was something special. All right, we got where are we going, Jarmart? All right, let's go to Glenn in North Charleston. Next up here on Sports Talk. Hi, Glenn. How are you?
Man, I just dread Georgia every year. They're so tough to beat. I mean, they always get bigger recruits, and there's like Texas A&M.
They were so big and bad last year. They won all of 7 games in the regular season. Woo!
Yeah, I just dread this year. But hopefully Muschamp has built up the team to where they got a little more experience now to play better defense against that quarterback. So hopefully they can put a stop on it. But I don't know. That game there, I'm looking for to lose that game. But like I say, I take 9-3 or 8-4.
I don't think there's a Gamecock fan alive who wouldn't sign up for 9-3 right now. Maybe even 8-4. Either would be progress over last year. The Georgia game's not until November. A lot of things are going to happen between now and then.
I like Florida a lot more than Georgia.
You like Florida a lot more than Georgia with Zaire at quarterback?
That game last year, Georgia had a touchdown lead with about 2 minutes to go, and the only reason that game got out of hand is they returned the last kickoff back, I think. Onside kick.
Yeah.
I'm thinking sophomore slump, Jacob East.
Oh, you think so? Some people think he had a freshman slump. We'll be right back.
Behind that line.
It's music to our ears. The theme song for the Mick Mixon, the voice of the Panthers, saw his team go out last night and open up with a victory in preseason play over those pesky Deshaun Watson-led Houston Texans. All right, so who would you rather have at quarterback, Cam Newton or Deshaun Watson? Quick.
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you.
I got to take our guy, but Deshaun Watson is incredible, and I thought he showed well last night. I talked to Andre Ware doing the broadcast on the Houston side, leaving the game last night, and he said that this wasn't a fluke, that Watson's been practicing well. The coaches are developing more and more confidence in him. So I heard this incredible roar from the crowd last night. I thought I'd missed something, Corn. I thought maybe there was a streaker or maybe a parachute, somebody parachuted into the stadium or something. But it was for Deshaun Watson. I mean, tons of Clemson Orange and South Carolina Garnet in support of Clowney and Jonathan Joseph and of course, the Clemson contingent last night.
Yeah, it looked like there was more orange in the stands, Mick, than there was blue and black.
Well, I think Houston's got more local interest than the Panthers do because Houston's had 5 Tigers, 2 Gamecocks, 1 Tar Heel, 1 Wake Forest Demon Deacon, 1 Coastal Carolina, 1 Appalachian State, and 1 UNC.
Yeah.
So there was a lot to like about that game last night.
How about Damiere Byrd? Really good game. And where is he in the scheme of things with the offense in terms of having a potential big role this year?
Yeah, I was talking about this afternoon. I think a Byrd, we can come up with a new saying, a Byrd on the roster is worth 2 on the practice squad because he's been working so hard. You remember? He was released, and then brought back. And Derek Anderson, he credits Derek Anderson for draping a big old lanky arm around him and saying, "Look, don't give up. This is the way it is in the NFL. You got talent. Keep working." And Damiere has done. He internalized that, and the coaches are very high on him. And I would have said the same thing prior to last night because he's been doing this exact same thing at Camp Wofford.
Cam Newton, since his baseball season, is he on a pitch count, or when is he going to start to really throw it in earnest?
I don't know, maybe early September, but I would think if everything goes according to the way the doctors and the coaches want it, Cam would throw some, get it lathered up a little bit for the 3rd preseason game, probably not until then and then not after then. But Coach Rivera said that he's been re-examined, that nothing's wrong. This is just a normal stiffness that you would expect from Cam trying to work his way back into season shape.
Mick, in my eyes deceiving me, or did Kelvin Benjamin lose like half a person in the offseason? Because he looked so much leaner than we're used to seeing him.
I don't know how he did it, because he took that, and anybody can take a bad picture, and Kelvin certainly did. He looked like the Michelin Man that one picture, but then 2 weeks later he was svelte and lean, and I thought maybe he had a corset. I thought maybe somebody just drew him up with a old a Wild West style kitty on Gunsmoke corset. That's not it. He got serious about it and looks incredible.
Yeah, only Pro and I get the Gunsmoke kitty thing there, so we know what you're talking about. Hey, is there any competition at backup, or is it clearly Derek Anderson who will be the backup?
Good question, Corin. I don't know, but I want to say that there's competition, and not just from Joe Webb, who's always there, that multi-talented special teams demon, and also can play QB. Garrett Gilbert is more than just a guy. He played at SMU and at Texas, and he's been looking real sharp in practice. And so I think it's pretty wide open right now.
Okay. You sense any hangover from last year with this team, or have they completely flushed what they went through last year and they kind of got the zip and the step and maybe some of that confidence back from a couple seasons ago?
I think it's perfect. And I'm going to tell it to you this way. If I'm wrong I think this team is poised to make a deep, deep run.
I think that the Panthers' time is now, and I think this is an exquisitely talented roster, a great combination of veteran leadership and young guns. If I'm wrong, I'm never going to get out ahead of my skis. I'm just going to say this time next year, if the Panthers don't have a good season, I'm just going to say we're going to take it one game.
Have they grasped this role? Of course they won 3 division titles in a row, and everybody just penciling the Panthers to win the South. The Falcons dominate the South last year, and everybody wants to talk about it's Tampa's division. They're the team that's going to make a move. So just coming out from, I guess, behind the bush is the role that the Panthers will play, at least early in the season. They relish this role of not being the favorite for a change.
It seems as though we have our best seasons here when not much is expected of us, when we got a little bit of mad on from being disrespected or picked to finish last in the NFC South like the Panthers are this year. And I get it. You know, the Panthers are a small, little bitty old small market team. We never have won one. Tampa Bay's bandwagon is completely full. New Orleans, bigger market team. Atlanta, bigger market team. I'm just happy people remember the Panthers are still in the NFC South, and maybe we can kind of sneak up and surprise some folks.
What do you think is the barrier between a season that is expected or a season that turns generational or I guess transformational, I guess you would say?
There may not be a barrier. I think the areas for potential growth on this team are twofold. One, depth at safety, and number 2, depth at corner. I might add to that the Panthers could use a little bit more depth at tight end behind Ed Dixon and Greg Olson. Hurts, Wallace, and others are battling it out. Scott Simons. But I'd say it's in the back end.
Yeah. What about McCaffrey? Your thoughts on him, what you've seen in camp, and then what you saw of him last night?
A love affair is about ready to begin. Last night, pulled the starter rope on it, and it's going to catch here soon, and that thing's going to rev like you don't know. I can envision a world where people yell at Luke Kuechly at training camp, Luke, and Luke comes over to him, and they say to Luke Kuechly, "Could you get Christian McCaffrey to tie my hat?"
He's going to be that popular, huh?
I'm telling you, the 22 jerseys they're already they're multiplying. It's gone viral.
How does the new field look? How did it hold up last night?
Oh, it's incredible. They dug down about a $750,000 project, took all the dirt out, and they brought in new dirt, which that was curious. I almost called you, Corn, because an intellect like yours would help me figure out how there could be such a thing as new dirt.
Yeah.
I figured the newest it could possibly be 4.5 billion years old, but maybe I said it wrong. Different dirt. They brought in different, better dirt, and the field is fast and dry and drains and is perfect.
Yeah, I think the dirt, the quality of the dirt's impacted by the amount of oxygen surrounding it during its time underground.
Oh, God, say that again so I can write it all down. That's
No, that was a little fertilizer. We used to call it manure back down in the country.
Absolutely.
I did learn they mix peat moss in with the sand to allow it to hold moisture and retain nutrients better.
I thought you would know that, being a yard man that you have always
I didn't
been.
know that Mick was doing biology.
Did we ask Mick about the kicking situation? Does
real quick,
Gano have a threat?
The kicker is the kicker.
Gano's been kicking great. Harrison Butker made one, though, from 50-plus last night, so he got his name solidly back into the mix. And don't count out Pilardi to beat out Andy Lee at punter as well.
Oh, well, we don't want to hear that. Andy Lee's a South Carolina guy. Don't want to hear that.
He's a good man, too. I like both those kids.
Yeah. Hey, Mick, thank you, my friend, and we look forward to a very long and successful season with you this year.
Y'all the best, man. Thanks for the visit.
Thank you. Mick Mixon, voice of the Panthers on television during the preseason. He'll get back behind the radio mic during the regular season.
It sounds like, Mick, the Panthers, no real problems with the quick shakeup before training camp with the front office.
No. I mean, look, the players are there, and
there's continuity with Marty Herney as well.
Yeah. Marty Herney knows the landscape there in Charlotte and how Mr. Richardson likes things done. That's a positive. Okay, we have enjoyed it. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Willie P.
Thank you, sir.
Crow and Jar March. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Them old. Shit.
That's not good.
What if it had rabies or something? Shit. He's laughing now.
You realize what happened right after that, right?
Like he leaped over the
Nobody
fence.
realized what happened right after that?
What?
Yadier Molina hit a grand slam like
really?
2 pitches later.
So they're saying the cat did it?
They're saying it's the cat. The cat got him. Cat got their tongue.
Is this just one promo?
Yep. Wofford.
Oh, we did that already.
No, we did Furman. We didn't do Wofford.
Wofford.
We did Furman and we did.
I tell you what, I'm about to fall asleep. I put myself to sleep. Brandon, you still there?
Yeah, he's out there.
Brandon. What's tomorrow, the 11th? All right, no media from Clemson tomorrow, so we can work some media in. And no USC media tomorrow either, I don't believe. Now, if you want to, it's up to you. I don't really go. The first 3 periods of practice are open tomorrow for the media at USC at 9 o'clock, which is basically they're stretching and then.
Will they talk tomorrow?
Oh, no. Tomorrow is a no media day. But they always open up a practice or 2 a week and let you watch the first 3 periods. Stretching usually amounts into some stretching, and then maybe there might be a little 11 on 11 involved in that, but not much.
It'll be special teams.
Well, they'll be kicking. See you, Pro. Of course, I'll be at the scrimmage. I'll be there for post scrimmage Saturday. You're welcome to be there too, obviously. That's at 3. So I'll find out from Steve about what time. Probably be about 5.
Did you stop the YouTube?